Hey, good evening everyone. It's Frank. Welcome back to the channel. How y'all doing? Today is November 6th, 2024. Have you guys been living under a rock? Donald Trump was president-elect. I don't know if that's good news, bad news, but anyway, I'm wearing a Trump hat, so anyway. Let's not focus on that. Today my video might be pretty short. I'm tired. I didn't get a lot of sleep yesterday, or last night I should say. And today work, woo! I had meetings from like right around 7:30, maybe a little bit before that. Right up until like 3:30, then drove home. I still gotta eat. It's like almost 6. Anyway, you guys don't want to know about my day. But anyway, hopefully you guys are doing well. And just wanted to have a quick video. Today might be a little more boring for you. But I wanted to just talk a little bit about budgeting. Budget. Yeah. Why is budgeting important? Well, Frank will tell you a story. So, my experience with budgeting, especially when I was younger, man, I didn't even, I was just like, alright, I got money, spend it. Money, spend, right? And then, like, in college, it was just like, alright, this is what I got. And it's like, man, I got no money. And then it's like, oh, I got, So, yeah, I didn't even know, I wasn't even budgeting. Even though I was really good at math, I didn't even bother. I didn't even know how to do this stuff, even though I took, like, economics classes. They sort of taught it to us in high school. Or at least I took these classes in high school. It wasn't mandatory training, but they should have. Actually, that's one thing. We should have financial literacy taught in our public schools, or just in general. We probably should do that. Anyway, for what it's worth, let's do. If we want to vote for that. Everyone should have financial literacy. I just did it on my own. But anyway, getting back to budgeting. So this came up when I was actually married to my ex-wife. Funny enough, she actually introduced it first, so she can blame herself. And you'll know why I say that in a few minutes here. So yeah, she was like, alright, we didn't have a lot of money at first, and she was trying to like get us to live on our own. And I was like, no, I'm not having even, because we got engaged and I was still going to school. And I couldn't even have enough money to get in an apartment. So she had it in her mind. So she's like, oh, let's write everything down. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So she's like, gave me a cursory Reader's Digest of like budgeting. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm like, all right, the income part. Oh, that's easy. Right. Here's my check. Right. And I was working technically part time, but because I was taking full time school, and then I was doing alternate semesters of full time work because I was doing co op. So some schools have that and some don't. And I needed money, so I would work some full time, but then when I went back to classes, I still worked there part time. So but it wasn't a lot of money, especially at the time. But anyway, so she's like writing all this stuff down. I'm just like, all right, well, we gotta figure out it. So that we had it down, didn't really track everything, and then she finally wised up after a couple of months that like, yeah, it's pie in the sky. There's no way we're gonna get our own apartment. Because she was working full time, I think, at the time. So fast forward, we get married, a couple years, right? And I told her on the onset, like, hey, like we don't make a lot of money. Like all her friends, either it was basically dual income, and a lot of these people had pretty good jobs, especially for the degrees that they had. But basically, the guy, right, made about the same as the woman, and right. But I was making like she was barely making any money. So when I graduated and I got an engineering degree or job, I should say, I was making probably 2 times. Right? She was just working like at Rite Aid, I think, and so she got some. I don't know. She had all these jobs. It's crazy. So I was trying to tell her, I'm like, hey, we got to live pretty meekly, because she wanted, all this stuff, a house. Well, she said she wanted a house and later changed her mind. But maybe we'll get into that. She wanted to like go on these like crazy vacations, and I'm like, hey, we can go on a vacation, but we can't do it every year. So like, what, I'm like asking her, like, what type of vacation you want? Number one, she couldn't identify that. So I'm like, well, if we don't know how much that would be, So in lieu of that, right, I can tell you how much we make, and I can tell you how much money we have left over, right? So she just had in her mind that we had all this money somewhere. And I'm like, we barely, we're like living day to day, paycheck to paycheck. And we weren't even investing in our retirement, let alone putting any money away to pay down, because I still had some debt. Put some money on down to get rid of that, or put money for a rainy, like, if I lost my job, I didn't have any money for that, right? If I lost my job, I'd be dead. So, sorry, looks like someone's bugging me on my other Facebook. So you might be hearing those dings. So come to find out, right? Like I got approved to her because she's just like at it, like, oh, I want to go horseback ride, and I want to do. I'm just like, what? So I'm like, all right. So I'll go do my homework. So I wrote everything down, right? And I had to, as I'm writing all this down, I'm showing her every little thing, right? Because, they always say, oh, he didn't show me the finances. And I was like, hey, you want to do the finances? Fine. And then, like, not even a month later, she just gave up. And I'm like, all right, fine. I knew it. Right? I knew it, but at least she came around. And I show her, I'm like, hey, this is how much. And she's like, what? I thought I made like, $15 an hour. I'm like, you do, but there's this thing called taxes. And she's like, what's this? I'm like, that's Social Security. What's this? That's Medicaid. She's like, I'm like, that's your net pay. That's how much goes into the account. Just, why is it so much? I'm like, it's just, hello. Keep voting a certain way and your taxes are going to keep going up, right? But anyway. That's neither here nor there. So I had to show her. She thought our income was significantly higher, right? So she's like, "Oh my god, I can't." And then I had to show her all the stuff, like all the expenses. She thought like the rent was lower, and then I had to show her like the last year of like, here's electricity, here's the gas. We were living in an apartment, so we didn't have any water. And then I think I had a lease at the time, and then she had her car, and then that needed, so I had all these here's what repairs have been, and she's like, and I showed her, I'm like, hey, we got like 100 hours a month, and I'm using that to pay off this debt, and it's going to take me 7 years to pay this debt off, until I get raises and this and that, So I wanted to tell you this because, sometimes you have to do something to show, like, people. I had to show her all this information. At least she, looked at the information, and I showed her every little step, right? And it was funny because, like, after a while, I told her, I was like, I learned the beginning of this from you. And she's like, oh yeah. And she's like, but. And I'm like, yeah, but you just didn't, you didn't go hard, you didn't go into it farther, right? I'm like, you just assumed you were making a certain level, and that was like another, and I'm like, why didn't you just look at what went into your bank account? I mean, we had a joint account at the time, but I was just like, it's right there, right? You think you make $700 a week, but it's only $500 after taxes, or I don't know, maybe that was every 2 weeks. And I told him, like, that's what you need to budget for, right? Because that's how much it goes in the account. Like the rest of it, who cares? That $200, we're never getting that back. The government wants your money, right? Uncle Sam's loaded, dude. And then he spends that and then some. Oh my god. So yeah, so that's just to show you, right? I mean, I can actually after that was actually a good learning experience because I used that, you know, during our marriage. I had to keep proving it to her. Yeah, that was annoying, man. I probably that was a red flag there, but anyway. Some people they don't get it, right? But sometimes you gotta show them like, here's this and that, and then I'm like, hey, there's these other things we should do, right? I told her I was like, hey, we're not saving anything for retirement, right? And like, there's no money in the bank if like you like if she lost her job, we probably would have been up up the creek, if you know what I mean, right? Let alone if I lost my job, right? So but it was a fight and struggle. I had to keep proving it, but. Goes to show you though, right? And then I just kept, every year I just keep getting better at it, and trying to anticipate further expenses. And then when we moved into a house, there was added expenses, or at least expenses that would be future, right? I was trying to show her, hey, yeah, okay, we don't pay this every year, but we need this, like, admiratize. I think that's the word, right? Say it's 5,000 every 5 years, but you only pay it once, right? One time every 5 years. So if you don't put $1,000 away every year, that fifth year you're like, oh my god, whoa, what happened? You just going back to the prepared thing, right? And that's why I'm kind of using budgeting today. Kind of springboard from some of our other discussions, but yeah, and you can use this budgeting and kind of in other areas too, right? Budgeting kind of leads into planning, and then sticking with your plan, the discipline part, not the don't care what other people. In this particular case, I had to because I had to show, hey, what you think is not reality, and at least I was able to show data, but it was actually worse than I had it at the time. So as it went forward, I kept defining it right, but I kept telling her, I'm like, hey, it's getting worse, not better. It's like, every time I get a pay raise, or she got a pay raise, right? That was another thing. Like, she's like, oh, I got $100 pay raise, and I'm like, all right. She's like, oh, I want to spend $100. I'm like, wait, what? Wait, like, hold up. Now I'm like, wait. When did you say 100? Like, is that when they count? Oh, no, that's how. I'm like, wait. Why don't you wait 2 weeks? That was another thing. I'm like, wait 2 weeks and we can see how much taxes come out. She couldn't wait. And then finally, right? And then so she was spending more than she actually got in her raise. I was like, come on, we got to stop this. So just goes to show you, right? Like, just keep doing what you need to do. And use this budgeting tool. If you don't know how to do that, there's probably a lot of things online. Like I was able to kind of learn it back how they taught it old school, like paper, pen. You can use an Excel sheet. I still have an old file that I made. I don't know, probably 20 years ago, and I've saved it in different ways. But it's like this still template that I had from way back, and I have all the. Once you do all the calculations in Excel, you just keep them there and just move it around and adjust accordingly. But you could, I'm pretty sure if you Google, it probably shows up pretty quick. And I used to have financial software to like check balance and all that stuff. Maybe we'll talk about that one time, but especially if that might be advantageous. I don't necessarily do that anymore. Just because I have a control of my spending, and pretty much every month it's about the same. So, but I call it intuitive. But yeah, until you get comfortable how much you typically spend, and if you know your expenses, you don't have a lot of variation thereof. But again, I budgeted and balanced my checkbook religiously, probably up to 2018. So yeah, I stuck with it forever. Now it's just like, all right, I just keep a tab on what I spend, and it's easier now because everything comes in your credit card. So at least I have a credit card where I get I use PayPal for the most part. You get like 1.5 or 2. I can't remember. It used to be higher, and I always pay it off. And I always keep a track of like, all right, what did I put in my PayPal, and it's pretty much the same amount every month because I'm like cookie cutter from that perspective. But so then what goes into my checking account, what comes out, in and out of my checking account, and it's like 5 items, right? Back in the day, it was a lot more. I used a lot more, more physical checks. So it was more important back then, and now it's a little less with, instant gratification with financial systems. But, it is a good tool to use if you think that your spending is a little out of control, or you think it's out of control, and you're just like, all right, I got to figure, and then you might find out, like, hey, why am I paying, like, $20 for this thing? And I don't use it, right? Like, you might find out there's things that's how I found out some things. But so hopefully this helps you out. If you got any questions, comments, put it down below. I'm still learning. I'm new to this. And this is Economic Ninja Challenge Day 5. And we're supposed to put something on Economic Ninja, so he's tagged in these. But yeah, I'm not getting much traffic on these. But for those that are on, thank you for support. If you need anything, suggestions, reach out. But like I said, if you especially want some budgeting tool, I'm pretty sure if you Google budgeting tools, it'll probably pop up for you. And I wish these tools were available when I was younger. I tell you that, but I'm more old school from that perspective. So I kind of, I probably won't put it down on a piece of paper, but because that's what I used to do, and then copy it into Excel. But now you can just use Excel. But I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of free financial. Like I said, I had something for budgeting my checkbook, but now you don't need it anymore. And I'm pretty sure there's free online stuff now. So there's probably a lot more tools out there. And if you guys want, maybe I'll do a little research on that. But I thought I'd come on here and share with that here. And now I'm like super hungry. It's like 6 o'clock. And I haven't ate much today either. So, hey, maybe we'll lose the extra weight today. That's how I'm going to look at it. I'll try to look at it positively. So with that said, thanks everyone. Hopefully you're doing good. Keep your chin up no matter what happens. For you out there that are from the military background, you got to embrace the suck. And if you don't know what that means, it's just like, hey man, keep, bad things happen. Just keep moving forward. Kind of plan for the worst, expect the best. Yeah, some people don't like that type of outlook, but we'll get through this, all right? One day at a time, one step in front of the or one foot, one foot in front of the other. And I appreciate it. Until tomorrow, I'll see you. Peace out.